why Trump has a more plausible path to the presidency in 19 maps. Wow, wow, wow. Now, you see, this is one of the reasons why I prefer the mainstream media over social media. With social media, it's all fragmented. Half of the stuff that you see on social media is garbage. You gotta really, really do your work to confirm what people say on social media. Whereas with mainstream media, yes, you do find BS in mainstream media. Don't get me wrong. You do. I've seen it personally. But at the same time, you can go to the New York Times and you can find articles like this that say, hey, looking at the data, looking at the information, looks like Trump has a more, as the title says, has a more plausible path to the presidency. Oh yeah, this is crazy. So I read a good chunk of this article, made some highlights for the whole thing. Here we go. The best evidence that American politics is deeply, stubbornly, and immovably stuck is that the presidential race is back where it started in the electoral college race for 270 votes, despite the work, time, and money by Democrats and Republicans. So I highlighted some areas here. I highlighted some excerpts here from the article. It says here, what has remained a constant all along is this. Pennsylvania and Georgia are the two most pivotal states in the campaign. This is what the article says. So basically, if Trump can take Pennsylvania, if he can win Pennsylvania, he would have a decisive advantage in beating Kamala Harris. If Kamala Harris wins Georgia, same thing goes for her. The president had an abysmal job. So President Biden, it's talking about Mr. Biden here, Joe Biden. Joe Biden had an abysmal job approval rating in the 30s, and 70% of Americans thought the country was headed in the wrong direction. Now, you see, this is what makes me question the whole white guys for Trump argument. All these lunatics on Twitter, white guys for Trump, Republican, no, sorry, not white guys for Trump, my mistake. There's plenty of those. White guys for Harris, that's what I'm talking about. There's all these people on Twitter, white guys for Harris, Republicans for Harris, conservatives for Harris. I think these are all psyops. I just refuse to believe that a lot of these people are even real. I don't know, I could be wrong, but it just seems like a big-ass psyop. I'm not sure, I can't confirm it, but that's my suspicion. Knowing the nature of websites like Twitter, it's filled with bots, regardless of what people may say. You see these pages and they're saying, oh God, look, Kamala destroying Trump, oh my God, blah, 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 blah. But if, according to the New York Times, 70% of Americans thought the country was headed in the wrong direction when Biden was president, I have difficulty believing that Harris has a better shot than Trump. I have difficulty believing that because, like I said before, they put Harris in a very... oh my God. So here it is, right? Biden has dementia. He can't really say a full sentence sometimes. His wife holds his hand. All this stuff, right? And they say, okay, this guy's got to go. He's got to go. I mean, he had the debate with Trump. He didn't really look good. He obviously looked like he was not fully cognitive in the whole situation. So it didn't really look good. So then they take Biden out. And now they're looking for a replacement, right? The people who run the electoral college or whatever, the people who run the Democrat Party, whoever they are, they said, okay, we got to get a replacement. Who are we going to get? I don't know. Who are we going to get? Why not Kamala Harris? So 70% of Americans thought the country was going down the wrong direction under Biden. And who do they want to convince these people to vote for the Democrat Party? The woman who is the vice president behind Biden. The woman who could actually replace Biden if Biden passes away during his presidency. How does that make any sense? If 70% of Americans were not satisfied with Biden, and you want the Democrat Party to win the presidency, why would you pick the lady whose boss is a person who 70% of Americans are not satisfied with? So they pushed her into a very difficult predicament. It's almost like they want her to lose. I don't know, I could be wrong. But it's almost like they want her to lose. Because now, every time she opens her mouth, what's the argument against her? You represent who? Your boss? Why should we vote for you when we didn't even like your boss? Why should we vote for you when you are representing your boss? So you're saying you're going to fix problems that were occurring under the administration of who? Your boss, who you support. So why should we trust you? You see the situation here? It's very, very difficult for her. So now every time she makes an argument that she's going to fix the problems, whatever problems there are, high grocery prices, et cetera, high gas prices, et cetera, immigration, that's another one. If she's going to try to convince people to vote for her and to effectively, by extension, vote for the Democrat Party, the argument against her is always, why should we vote for you when you are representing someone who we don't even like or who we are not satisfied with? Why should we vote for you when your boss has been the president this whole time, when these problems have been occurring and they were not fixed? So how can we expect, or why should we expect that you're going to fix them? It's a very difficult situation for Mrs. Harris. I think Trump, Refined Canine has said, I think Trump is the new regime candidate. Bezos and Zuckerberg have backed off of him. At the same time, though, Trump has had a lot of good ideas recently. Not sure what's going on. It's really weird. I agree. Yes, I agree. It is really weird. And yes, you're correct. Bezos and Zuckerberg have backed off. Have you guys noticed that? I mean, if you guys are on Facebook, I don't think a lot of people even use Facebook anymore. I'm still on Facebook. I still use it to post videos and articles. I know Facebook is sort of a dying place. It's kind of becoming a ghost town. But Facebook has had a hell of a lot less censorship lately. I have seen, I'm not exaggerating, I have been seeing openly racist Facebook pages. And I didn't go out looking for them. I mean, they pop up on my feed. The algorithm says, hey, this racism stuff looks like this is for you. And I'm getting all sorts of crazy stuff. Like 4chan tier material. It's bizarre, very bizarre. Facebook is starting to look more and more like X. Why is this happening? This is a great question. And I even heard that YouTube has now, and I could be wrong about this, but I heard that YouTube has now lowered its censorship. It's lowered the intensity of its censorship when it comes to certain things such as the 2020 election. Very, very interesting times we're living in. Because remember, all the lefties in social media, they were huge believers in censorship. They still are. And they thought that we could just censor our enemies out of existence. And Elon Musk buying X, big game changer. Because now the biggest social media platform outside of YouTube is owned by a right-winger who is allowing people to express views that would have been very quickly canceled, very quickly erased from mainstream sites like YouTube or Facebook. So I think that was a big game changer. It really reflects the trend that we're living in. Yeah, they want to compete with X, exactly. It really represents the trend that we're living in. It actually demonstrates a couple of things here. For one, it demonstrates the trend that we're living in. We are living in a trend, in a time where you have this trend of nationalism, ultranationalism, explicit racism, hating Jews, right? All these things are rising up. They are rearing their ugly heads. They're returning from the past, if you will. And so this trend has become so conspicuous, so obvious, that now other websites that would have censored them years ago are saying, well, maybe we should allow them some freedom. Maybe we should allow them more freedom than we did before, because they see this trend and that they see that it's growing, and they don't want to lose money. They want those people to be in their sphere as well, because it's now a very large and very substantial market. The right-wing market. I'm finding long banned videos on YouTube. Yeah, it's reversing. It goes back to what I said in one of my prior videos. You cannot legislate a movement out of existence. You cannot censor a movement out of existence once it has passed a particular threshold of popularity. So once it has become quite popular and the movement is growing, you can hate it all you want. If you try to censor it, what happens? That movement that you despise now has a martyr's reputation. It now has that label of being persecuted. And so its followers, the followers movement say, look, we're being attacked. We must be on the right side if the opposition is so scared of us that they're trying to shut us down, that they're trying to shut us up. Then other people see what's happening and they say, this movement's being attacked. Why is that? Maybe these people have some good points. and that movement will gain new recruits. This has happened many times. This is actually part of the history of Christianity. I think it was Tertullian who said that the blood of the martyrs waters the roots of the church or something like that. Once a movement becomes big enough, I mean, the train is set. Either the movement is going to die on its own, it's going to fizzle out because it'll lose popularity for some other reason, or it's going to continue to grow. They tried to ban Hitler. Yeah, they did. They tried to ban Hitler. And look how that turned out. Are we not still talking about the Holocaust? Did banning Hitler prevent the Holocaust? It didn't. It did not. Because Nazism was part of the zeitgeist in those days. Just like Bolshevism or Marxism was, Nazism was a part of the zeitgeist in those days. Protectionism, nationalism, isolationism, hardcore militarism, racism, eugenics, neo-paganism, all of these things, all of this amalgamation of things were all part of the zeitgeist in the mid-20th century and before that even. But we can say the mid-20th century because we're focusing on the Holocaust and World War II. Even in Poland, before the Holocaust happened in Poland, before the Germans and the Soviets invaded Poland in 1939, Poland also was getting swept into this zeitgeist of nationalism, hardcore nationalism. You did have liberals in Poland who were against it, but there was a very, very popular nationalist movement in Poland before the Germans took over. And when Hitler when Hitler took power, when he became Chancellor of Germany, the Poles were looking to make a deal with the Germans. I mean, they didn't really hate Hitler. They sort of, I don't know if they admired him, but they weren't really anti-Hitler. There was a law that was put in place in Poland before the Nazis took over. It was a law that was put in place to ensure the protection of minorities in Poland. By minorities, we're talking about Jewish people and other peoples who were living in Poland. And the nationalists in Poland, and I'll probably talk more about this later on in the stream, the nationalists in Poland, they wanted that minority protection, or they wanted minority rights to be removed. They didn't want that there. Why? Because there was this increasing nationalism in Poland that was growing and it was very, very strong. Once you had this nationalist government in Poland, one of the things that they did was remove the minority protections law from the government, from their legislation. When Hitler became Chancellor of Germany, Hitler was all for that sort of thing. He was all for removing laws that would guarantee the rights of minorities. I mean, look at what happened, right? The Holocaust. The Holocaust was really the violation of minority rights. And it was the expression of absolute and utter hatred towards minority rights, the very idea of minority rights. And Poland thought, hey, we can make a deal with the Germans. We can get maybe a chunk of Czechoslovakia or something. And what ended up happening was millions of dead Poles. The end result was dead bodies everywhere, as the song by Korn goes. Dead bodies everywhere. That was the result. That was the outcome. That was the denouement of Poland within the reign of the Third Reich. It was millions of Poles being butchered, Poles being sent to death camps, Poles being used as guinea pigs for human experiments, and that was German nationalism inflicting hell on the Poles. But prior to all of this, the Poles were all in favor for nationalism. They were all in favor for removing minority rights. And then when Germany invaded, the Germans said, okay, well, we got to build Lebensraum. We got to expand Lebensraum, living space for the Germans. You Slavic people are sort of in the way and you don't have any rights. Well, what about our rights? You don't have any. Goodbye. So the Poles initially said, we're not going to really have rights for minorities, guaranteed rights for minorities. And the Germans came over and took away their rights. So if you want to take away the rights of people, be prepared for someone else to take away your rights. Don't be surprised when someone else tries to take away your rights. It's a very ugly, ugly history. Hitler's speeches have been on YouTube because they're there for historical reasons. They're there for educational purposes. I understand that people go there because they love Hitler and all this stuff, but also you have people who watch Hitler speeches for the sake of research or for some morbid curiosity, maybe. It's the same reason why you have literally hundreds of videos on YouTube of police officers shooting criminals justifiably, because those police body cam videos, at the end of the day, they may be entertaining, they may be cool to watch. It's kind of like it's watching a real life action movie, but at the end of the day, they are informative and they are educational in the sense that they are teaching people what cops and how dangerous the job of an officer may be. Poland was very nationalistic for good reason. Well, it may have been for a good reason. You can say, well, it's because you had the Soviet Union and you had the Germans and all this stuff, but it didn't really help them. Poland, but the thing is, here's the thing, though. We have to be fair. There was a hardcore nationalism in Poland that wasn't very nice to Jewish people. It wasn't very favorable towards Jews. But at the same time, Poland had the highest number of people who rescued Jews. Poland had the highest number of people who went out of their way to save the lives of Jews. So Poland had a lot of good people. But there were some bad people in Poland, don't get me wrong, but there's bad people everywhere, I understand that. Project 2025, I've actually never looked into 2025. I have never looked into it because I don't know if it's ever going to pass. I don't know. We can barely, listen, Trump said, Roe v. Wade, I'm leaving it up to the states, and some states in America have effectively gotten rid of abortion, but many states in America have legislated for abortion to remain legal within their borders. So Republicans can't fully remove abortion from the country. So I'm going to find it difficult to believe that they're going to just implement Project 2025 over all this. I have no idea what even the project is. I've never looked into it. I'm an Indian. What's your opinion on the impact of Israel, Palestine, and elections? What does you being an Indian have to do with it? That's my question. Like, just ask the question. Why do you have to say I'm an Indian? I never understood why people do stuff like that. Like, I'm Jewish. What do you think about that? I mean, if it has something to do with being with India, then I can understand that. But it has nothing to do with being Indian. I don't understand. Whatever. From what I understand, to answer your question, Jewish people tend to vote Democrat, the majority. But there are a substantial number of Jewish Americans who vote Republican. There actually was an article published by, I want to say the New York Times. Actually, no, it was published by Haaretz, and I might get into that article today. Trump isn't that different from 1990s Bill Clinton. Well, from what I understand, the Republican Party is no longer just a moral Christian party like it was back in the day. Back in the day, the Republican Party consisted of mainly Christians who are pro-life, and they want Christian principles to be upheld in society, etc., etc. Now, those people are still there, and they are still in the Republican Party. But what happened is that the Republican Party expanded. It began to embrace other people who may not be religious or Christian, but stand on certain values that the Republican Party now upholds. So, for example, you have people who are Republican who are pro-Sodom. Yeah, that's a big thing now. Pro-Sodom, but they're voting Republican, and they may be completely indifferent to the whole abortion thing, right? They may be completely indifferent, like abortion, we don't even give a shit. They're pro-Sodom, indifferent to abortion, but they love Trump because they think Trump is going to better the economy, and they want Trump to stop this influx of people passing the border. And they also are terrified of America being pulled into a global conflict or America being pulled into a war with Russia, which is very terrifying. I mean, we're in the Halloween season right now, and I mean, the big horror movie is reality, right? We can talk about horror movies, Michael Myers, all this stuff, but the biggest horror movie is reality, and that's horrifying. And so you have people who say, man, I'm a liberal, like I am morally liberal, but I'm seeing the Democrat Party going all in for Ukraine or being very supportive of Ukraine, and that's pissing off the Russians, and that could pull us into a war with Russia, and I don't want that. I'm going to vote for Trump. So the Republican Party has expanded its clientele. It has expanded its electorate. It has expanded in its circle of demographics, and it's very effective. It's been very effective. So you have people who are not morally conservative, but they're just terrified of World War III, or they are tired of grocery prices being so high, which they are very high, by the way. They're tired of mass migration. They're tired of high crime rates in certain parts of the country. And so they may be morally liberal, but they're going to vote Republican for those reasons. So the Republicans are widening their circle of voters. And what that has led to a great extent, is the widening of racial diversity in the Republican electorate. I didn't watch the whole video. I only watched really like 20 seconds of it. But I recently saw a video of Destiny. The video shows Destiny, Stephen Bonnell, he's a big liberal debater. Destiny debating dozens of Trump fans. I want to make sure my audio is doing okay. And Destiny's a white guy. Stephen Bonnell, he's a white guy. And I'm looking at the Trump supporters who are arguing with him. And it is a very, I don't want to sound like some woke liberal here, but it is a very, very racially diverse group. I mean, you see blacks, you see Hispanics. It's very racially diverse. And I made the observation, I said, man, this whole election season, I have never in my life seen a more racially diverse group of Republican voters than now. I have never seen Republican voters be as racially diverse as the ones now. Back in the 2016 election, it wasn't like this at all. Back in the Obama versus McCain or the Obama versus Romney elections, it wasn't like this at all. Back in the day when it was Bush versus Gore, it wasn't like this at all. But now, I have never seen the Republican Party get so racially diverse as now. It is unbelievable. It's amazing. It really is amazing. And it's very, very important. It really is, because you can lose by a hair. You can lose by 10,000 votes. So if you can get some black folks to vote for you, and you got 10,000 more black folks voting for you, that can give you the edge to win. If you got 10,000 more Arab Americans voting for you, that can give you the edge to win. If you can just get a few more Jews to vote for you, because the Jewish vote has been quite substantial in its pertinence in American elections. If you can just get a few thousand more Jewish people to vote for you, you can win. Yeah, we live in a very different time. We're moving to a different world. We are transitioning into a whole new world. And by the way, this New York Times article mentions this. It talks about how racial diversity has been increasing in the Republican Party. So let's get back into this article here. That is why Mr. Trump's standing in the polls has not changed despite becoming a convicted felon, okay? And that's actually helped him. And constantly making statements that are flat out lies. Again, this article, it's the New York Times, all right, it's partial for the Democrats. Nonetheless, though, there is informative information in the article to learn from. This idea that Trump being a felon is going to hurt him, I don't know how people can believe this. I just don't know how people can believe this. You have African-American dudes who are saying, Trump's a thug. He like one of us, man. He got all these felony charges on him, but it was bullshit because the system, it'd be using the court. They've been weaponizing the court system against them, just like they weaponized it against black folks, you see? So there's this whole narrative going on the internet. And I've been seeing it for months now. And so I don't really see the felony charges situation. And that is why Miss Harris, who has raised over $1 billion and has heavily outspent Mr. Trump and won virtually every news cycle for 2 months, and by all accounts dominated the debate, I don't believe that, is running at best only even in national and swing state polling. So it doesn't even matter how much money this woman spends. She spends $1 billion. She has spent more money than Trump. Hasn't helped her that much. She, as the article says, at best, she is even with Trump, because it's not just about money. People think you need money to run an election. Don't get me wrong. You got to do ads and things like that. But money is a means to an end. The means is money. The end is to win people's hearts. You can't win people's hearts with money alone. That requires charisma. That requires personality. That requires humor. It requires all these things. Bloomberg is richer than Trump, and Bloomberg couldn't cut it. Mark Cuban's a wealthy guy. He's a billionaire. Do I see Mark Cuban becoming president? Maybe. Do I see him becoming president within the next 8 years? Do I see him becoming president after this next presidency is done? Nope. I don't see it. Why? Because Mark Cuban, I'll be honest with you guys, Mark Cuban looks like a bird, all right? He looks like if a bird became a human, like a hawk. Like a hawk got a human face. That's Mark Cuban, all right? And he's looking at you. He looks like he just crawled out of a cave somewhere. He's just the guy's a maniac. I mean, the guy looks crazy, right? I don't like the guy. I think he's a sinister individual. And he's just yelling. And there was a debate recently between Bill O'Reilly and Mark Cuban. And Bill O'Reilly is just, calm, cool, and collective. He got an Irish temper though. Mr. O'Reilly, he has an Irish temper, but he was holding his own in that debate. But there was Mark Cuban. I mean, I just don't see Mark Cuban winning. I could be wrong. Maybe in the next, 10 years from now, the world will be a different place. But I just don't see him winning. It's not just about money. It's about charisma. It's about personality. And Trump has a personality that pulls people in. He's funny. One thing that gets people magnetized to a certain personality is two things. It's a mixture of two things. How do I say this? Prestige, but at the same prestige or distinction. I think distinction is a better word. Distinction and familiarity. So what makes Trump distinct? He's wealthy, right? What get status, right? We can say status is also a word that applies to this. Trump is distinct because he's wealthy. He's a celebrity. What gives him familiarity? Him working for a day at McDonald's. Him driving that garbage truck, making people laugh, going on the Joe Rogan podcast. Now, does that really mean he's one of us in the sense that he's working at McDonald's and he's a garbage man? No, but he is willing to bring himself down to our level and connect with us, or at least try to connect with us, right? And that makes people... Cuban is literally transforming into Rachel Maddow. Yep, Trump has personality and a very big one. Harris ain't got any in the core of her soul. She doesn't have personality. Harris does not have personality. I don't give a damn what anyone tells me. The woman ain't got no personality. She doesn't. She looks like an inner city vice principal. I'm sure she would make a great vice principal someday, but I just don't see it. She has that hyena laugh, and she looks like a snappy woman. She'll try to order you around. And plus, a lot of black dudes, let me tell you guys, I've talked about this before, a lot of black dudes, they're not very nice when they talk about black women. I'll be real with you. I've seen them on YouTube. They're not very nice. Let me tell you about a woman, man. A woman, you can't be nice to her, man. All that walking her home, walking her to her car, bullshit, man, to hell with that, man. She's going to step all over you. All right, man, I'm going to say some bad words. I don't want to say it, but a lot of black dudes can be very mean-spirited when it comes to their sisters, when it comes to their black queens. And they associate black women with someone who is domineering. And I'm just going to say it. A lot of black dudes, they'll talk like this. They'll say, man, a black woman, man, she gonna ride all over you, gonna walk all over you, man. You can't let her do that, man. You either she the bitch or you the bitch. You know what I mean? You can't be her bitch. You know what I'm saying? But if you're gonna be walking her home, being nice to her and all this stuff, man, you're gonna be her simp. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's how they are. All right, that's not all of them, but there's a big subculture like this, and it gets nasty. I'm not gonna lie. So they see Kamala Harris and they're like, man, she ain't even black. Plus, I don't want no bitch telling me what to do. I ain't gonna vote for no bitch. Like, I'm being straight with you guys. That's how a lot of these people talk. So they see Trump and like, man, he a felon. They got the court system going after him for no damn reason. They're trying to put him in prison, just like they put us black men in prison. But who am I going to vote for? Who am I going to vote for? Some bitch who looks like she's from the inner city and she ain't even black? Or am I going to vote for a man who, for one thing, he a man. He ain't a simp. He a businessman. He got money. He got cash. And he is a victim of the court system, which has been going against black men for 400 straight years. Like, that's what I'm talking about. All right. And as stupid as that sounds, and I agree, it is idiotic. It is. That way of thinking to me is idiotic. As idiotic as that sounds, you would be shocked how many people think that way. You'd be shocked. I ain't gonna vote for no bitch, blah, blah, blah. I'm gonna vote for this. And I'm gonna vote for a man. I ain't no simp. So let's get right back to this article here. I'm segueing all over the place, but this is what this show is about, right? It's me segueing. This is not the Trump has a lot of charisma. Yeah, he does. Hello, Theo. Hello, good evening. So it don't matter how much money this woman got. It ain't helping her because you can't. Let me tell you something, all right? Don't matter how much money you got. One thing you can never fake is swag. You can't fake swag. One thing you can never fake is swag. One thing you can never fake is charisma. Don't matter how much money you have. Dzień dobry. Don't matter how much money you have, man. You can't fake no swag, man. And us brothers, we know when we see real swag and fake ass swag, man. We know when we see a real pimp and a fake ass pimp. Kamala Harris a fake pimp. And all the people voting for her are simps. Donald Trump, he's a real pimp. He's a real pimp. I ain't playing with you. I gotta smooth out my ebonics. Gotta refresh. I'm from the Bay Area, so I know a little bit of ebonics, man. I know some of that ebonics, yo. Bruce Harris. Hey, Bruce Harris, man. You ain't related to Kamala, are you? You got the same last name, man. I just want to make sure. You from my hood or you from their hood over there? I mean, not be confused with David Dober. When Trump talks, he always talks about the subject, other topics, only later to come back. Oh, yeah, that's the thing. Yeah, I've always been that way. So let's go right back to this article here. We're going to spend 3 hours on one article here. Given Mr. Trump's, see, we're going to spend 3 hours on one article. That's how my brain works. I'm not linear. This is how I think. And then I go back. Here we go. All right, so let's go back to the article here. Very informative read. This is why I had to highlight, because I don't want to read all this stuff. For the third presidential election cycle in a row, the winner will come down to the 7 battleground states of Arizona. That's the desert state. That's basically Dubai. Georgia, Michigan, Nevada, North Carolina, Pennsylvania, and Wisconsin. All right, these are going to be the battleground, the 7 battles. All right, it's like a war. Political wars are similar to real wars in the sense that in a real war, you take a few territories, you win. It's the same thing in political wars. You take a few, all you need are these 7 areas. That's it. You win. So basically, if Trump can take Pennsylvania, he's pretty damn close to victory. And if Kamala can take Georgia, it's going to be bad for Trump. So these are the 2 states that a lot of people are going to be focusing on, Pennsylvania and Georgia, everybody. In the most recent NBC poll, she has dropped 20 points. With who? Hispanic brothers. Other people of color. People of color are standing together. All right? So she lost 20 points from the Hispanic brothers out there. Black and brown folks. And 4 points with the brothers. The black brothers. The African brothers. Because we ain't no simps. And we ain't gonna vote. What is wrong with me? We ain't gonna vote for no bitch. Not gonna happen, yo. According to a recent analysis by William Frey of the Brookings Institution, based on recent census data, the minority share of the eligible voting population represents more than 40% of the votes or voters, eligible voters, in Arizona. So, minority votes, pretty big deal. Over 45% of the eligible voters in Georgia and Nevada. What's going to happen? What's going to happen when the brothers stop voting for the others? Do you still listen to Michael Savage? Once in a while, I'll listen to him. Yeah, when he does a cooking video. I love it. Oh, I love how Trump back in the day was like, we got to do a Muslim ban. We got to ban some people from some other countries. And all the Trump voters were, yeah, people from the Middle East suck. Now Trump, he beware. His people beware. They be in Michigan trying to get the Arab brothers. Oh, we going to end the war in Gaza. Remember when Trump was a hardcore Zionist? He still is something of a Zionist, don't get me wrong, but he was a hardcore Zionist. We're going to move the embassy to Jerusalem. Yeah, Israel's got Israel, we got Israel's back. You see Trump talking about Israel? Not as much as he used to. Why? Because he needs the Arab brothers over there in Michigan. He needs the Arab brothers over there in Michigan. That's right. So what's Trump saying? What did Trump say recently? When I become president, I'm going to give a call to Benjamin Netanyahu. And I'm going to say, Natan, time to end this shit. Party's over. It's over. Why is Trump saying that? Because he wants to get the Arab brothers over there in Michigan. He wants to get the Arab brothers. It's amazing how times have changed, everybody. And then you see Trump with Khabib. I can't say his last name. Khabib Nurmagomedov or whatever. You see Trump with Khabib at the UFC game. After he got convicted, right? He's a felon now. He's a felon. He goes to the UFC. Hangs out with Khabib. And what does Khabib say? You're going to end this thing in Gaza, right? And what does Trump say? We're going to put a stop to it. I'm going to put a stop to it. Oh, that's good. Good for optics. Good for optics. Why is Trump saying this? Because he needs to get the Arabs. And now you have Middle Eastern people, Middle Eastern Americans saying, we're not going to vote for Kamala. Why? Oh, I don't know. Because she represents Joe Biden, who has allowed Israel to slaughter Gaza with abandon. So if we're going to vote for Kamala, it's just going to be another 4 years of the same thing. But we need to get Trump because maybe he'll be an alternative. Maybe he will have a different way of doing things, a better way. So basically, here's an idea of what could happen. Right here are two possible scenarios. How Harris can win. All right, Harris starts out with 226 likely electoral votes compared with 219 for Mr. Trump with 93 votes up for grabs. So here in this scenario, Harris got the whole West Coast, and she has New Mexico, Colorado, Virginia, Illinois, New York, Vermont, New Hampshire, Maine, all the former 13 colony states. Georgia hasn't been decided yet, so we'll keep going here. If Ms. Harris carries the blue wall states, Pennsylvania, Michigan, and Wisconsin, she wins exactly 270 electoral votes, and she wins the presidency. All right. This is the nightmare scenario for the Republicans. Fortunately for her, these three states are more similar than dissimilar, having voted the same way in every election since 1980, with the exception of 1988 when Michael Dukakis carried Wisconsin, blah, blah, blah. So Wisconsin, based on its history, it looks like it'll be a blue state. Pennsylvania has outsized importance for Ms. Harris, since 6 of the most plausible paths for victory require her carrying the state. So she has to win Pennsylvania. She has to. Now, Trump, if we all remember correctly, and I know we all remember this, Trump got shot in Pennsylvania. He got shot in that state. So maybe a bunch of people over there in Pennsylvania said, why are they trying to kill this man? I'm going to vote for him. You never know. You just never know. Here's another scenario. If the blue wall states do break apart in this election and Ms. Harris loses Michigan, she could still win by carrying Pennsylvania, Wisconsin, and either Georgia. So she can lose Michigan. If she wins Pennsylvania, Wisconsin, and Georgia, then Michigan doesn't matter. Or North Carolina. Okay, fine. Or by winning Pennsylvania, Wisconsin, Arizona, and Nevada. So she has to win a certain handful of states, certain number of states to win. Or by winning Pennsylvania, Michigan, and Arizona. But in all these scenarios, Pennsylvania is the state that she has to win. In all these scenarios, Pennsylvania overlaps. There is a second path for Ms. Harris to win without carrying Pennsylvania, but these scenarios are more challenging. Instead, she would need to win Wisconsin, Michigan, and Georgia and Arizona. She would have to win. She could, if she wins all four of these states, she wins the presidency. Or Georgia and Nevada. Or North Carolina and Nevada. Okay, let's go to Trump. I love how they first give you Harris. Here's Harris. Here's Harris. Have to give you the woman thing because it's a woman thing. We can have a first woman president. All right, let's go. This is amazing. The title says why Trump is going to be the more likely winner. Oh, okay. Here we are talking about friggin' Harris for 10 minutes. Based on past elections, Mr. Trump starts out with 219 electoral college votes compared with 226 for Ms. Harris. Voter history and recent polling suggests that Mr. Trump's safest battleground state is North Carolina, which Republicans have won in all but one presidential election since 1976. Ms. Harris and Mr. Trump have been campaigning hard and often there, and Democrats hope that the favorable governor's race could help them. But I see no strong evidence of Mr. Trump losing here. So it looks like Mr. Trump, he's going to get North Carolina. Okay, fine. The first path for a Trump victory starts by carrying Georgia, a historically Republican state, where Mr. Trump has done work to mend fences after his loss by fewer than 12,000 votes in 2020. Okay, so Georgia, very important state for Trump to win. If he is able to win Georgia, he would be in a commanding position with a base of 251 electoral votes and multiple options to reach 270 electoral votes. So if he wins Georgia, then it's looks like it's downhill from there. Okay, then all Mr. Trump needs is Pennsylvania. So Pennsylvania, man, that state keeps coming up. It's a very, very hot state, very pertinent, very important state in this electoral political contention, all right? Okay, then all Mr. Trump needs is Pennsylvania, where he and his running mate, J.D. Vance, have been investing time and where a mix of inflation, trade, fracking, and immigration concerns and the July assassination attempt there on Mr. Trump have helped him. So there you go. The assassination attempt has helped him, and a mix of these multiple problems, immigration and the like, immigration, inflation, etc., have helped him in Pennsylvania. Or Michigan and Nevada. So if he wins Georgia, Michigan, and Nevada, that can also be a victory for him. That's why he wants the Arabs to vote for him. Or Michigan and Arizona. So if he wins Arizona, Michigan, and Georgia, that can also help him. Again, a lot of Arabs living in Michigan, so he wants to get that. He wants to get as many votes as possible. Or Arizona and Wisconsin. So if he wins Wisconsin, Arizona, Georgia, and North Carolina, that's a win for him. That's a win for him. The second and more difficult path for Mr. Trump would be if he was not able to win Georgia. The second and more difficult path for Mr. Trump would be if he was not able to win Georgia. In that case, he would have only 235 electoral votes and would need to win 3 of the 6 remaining battleground states. So if he loses Georgia, then he would still need to win. He could still win, but he would have to win North Carolina, Michigan, Wisconsin, and Arizona. North Carolina, Pennsylvania, Arizona, and Nevada. So those are the scenarios. It's pretty crazy. It's going to be a shit show. We're going to see how this whole thing plays out. Part of the difficulty in confidently or even tentatively predicting the outcome of the election is the country's negative view of both Mr. Trump and Ms. Harris. Yeah, okay. With both of their favorability ratings underwater, Mr. Trump is easily winning on most of the issues that matter most to voters, but he is losing badly to Ms. Harris on who has the character and temperament to serve as president. I don't believe that. I think Americans don't really give a damn if Trump has made fun of a disabled person. But Trump, as the article says, again, the article has to be partial towards the Democrats because this is the New York Times, all right? But it says here that Mr. Trump is easily winning on most of the issues that matter most to Americans. What are those issues? We all know what they are. Immigration and the economy. And don't bring us into World War III. Those are the 3 things. And Trump wins in all 3 of those topics. Not that difficult. Given the Biden-Harris administration's low approval rating in handling the economy and immigration, a more normal Republican candidate would likely win the election in a landslide. Okay. So if a more normal Republican candidate would likely win against Harris in a landslide, then that means Trump is more than likely going to win. That's what I'm seeing here, given the Biden-Harris administration's low approval. I already read that. Conversely, a majority of the country has never approved of Mr. Trump as a candidate or as president and would clearly... Never? Oh, majority, right? Because they'll say that he lost the majority vote. Okay, never mind. Or as president and would clearly prefer not to go back to 4 more years of Trumpian chaos. Ms. Harris has been hurt far more than is generally recognized by a short campaign. Oh, yeah, that's another thing. They got Harris to run... with just, 2 or 3 months of time, right? That's it. So they say, okay, who do we want to put into this most difficult predicament? Why not Kamala Harris? They're not going to throw their best in such a situation. They're not going to throw their best. You have war in Ukraine, war in the Middle East. You have very high grocery prices, bad immigration problems. I mean... this has been going on under Biden. So do you want 4 more years? That's the question that people are asking. So they said, who are we going to humiliate here? This is my estimation. All right. I could be wrong, but this is me putting on my conspiracy theory hat here. I'm just imagining Democrats in a big office and they're saying, okay, who could we humiliate? We don't want to have our best go against Trump. Why not the person who represents the guy that a lot of people are blaming for all these problems happening? Why not? Why not just the lady who represents the guy who everyone is blaming for all these problems? Throw her into the fray and give her 3 freaking months. Give her 3. She only has 3 months. Who cares? Throw $1 billion. Yeah, we helped you out. Then you have freaking Obama, who wasn't really helping her. You have Obama coming in and saying, well, brothers, the black brothers, they're not voting for Kamala. They voted for me, but they're not voting for her. They're not voting for Kamala. And I don't know why, but I'm noticing a lot of brothers not voting for her. Now, I got a lot of brothers voting for me, but I don't see a whole lot of brothers voting for her. Why aren't you voting for the sister? You voted for the brother. Why don't you vote for the sister? Show some love to the sisters, guys. Show some love for the sisters, boys. Translation. I got more black brothers voting for me than you. They like me. They don't like you, Kamala. You ain't black enough. And I'm half white. Gavin Newsom will be the next candidate. Yeah, that could happen. But the problem with Gavin Newsom is that if he runs for president, people will always just look to California to discredit him. They'll say, you're going to become president? You're going to California the whole damn country? Are we going to go through some Californication? Is that what you're going to do? So they're going to look at California, high crime, California being, to a great extent, a third world country with pockets of very wealthy areas. Oakland, LA, lots of problems in those states, high rates of homelessness. They're going to look at cities like San Francisco, high rates of thievery, shoplifting, and they're going to say, you want this guy running the whole country? That's another uphill battle. Here in Northern California, the real Northern California gotta go. Well, I'm from Northern California. Which part of Northern California are you in? I'm from the Bay Area. Which part are you in right now? Gavin is more ruthless and calculating. He is definitely more intelligent than Kamala Harris. Absolutely. I'm just saying that if he runs, the optics that will be used against him is the state of California. And what he's going to do is he's going to throw a whole bunch of statistics at his opponents and say, actually, no, the crime rate isn't that bad here. It actually went down by two decimal points last week. So it's not that bad, guys. And, we used to be a very violent state. We're not the number 1 most violent state. That's New Mexico. We're like the number 3 or 4 most violent state in the country. So it's not that bad, guys. This is like when they had an interview between Tim Sebastian and some politician from Somalia. And Tim Sebastian, he's a great interviewer. I think he's the best interviewer out there, if you ask me. Very, very seasoned journalist. And Tim Sebastian is interviewing this Somalian politician. And he says, Somalia used to be ranked as the number 1 worst nation in the world. How does it feel that you are now number 2 most worst nation in the world? And the Somalian guy said, well, we are making progress. We are doing reforms. We are making progress. So you feel right that it feels very good now to be number 2, to be number 2 in the list of worst countries in the world. You have just been defeated by Yemen. So that makes you feel very splendid, doesn't it, Mr. Somali man? Doesn't it? You feel very good about yourself now, even though you are still castrating your women, doing a circumcision on your women folk. And now you're number 2, but you feel very good, right? You feel amazing now, right? You feel elevated now, right? You feel ecstatic. You feel exuberant, right? You feel exhilarated. It's exhilarating. You are feeling a feeling. You are feeling a sense of exhilaration that you are now no longer the number 1 worst country in the world. You are now the 2nd worst country in the world. You feel amazing, don't you, Mr. Somali man? And the Somali man says, yes, we feel very good about it, actually. We are doing more investment in farming. We are doing reforms. We are really progressing as a country. And then you think, the first thing you think, right? What's the first thing you think when you hear Somalia? The first thing you think is that movie Black Hawk Down with all the starving kids, and you hear that music in the background. That's what you're thinking. Let's take a vacation now to Somalia. It's no longer the number 1 worst country in the world. It's number 2. It's amazing. That's why I compliment my man here on his penchant for learning foreign languages. He comes from the part of the world where many have this talent. Polish is just exceedingly difficult. Polish is a very difficult language, and I have no plans on learning Polish. I can barely listen. I could barely even speak Spanish, and Spanish, I'm sure, is simpler than Polish. Spanish is a very complicated language, though. I do not like. I don't mind hearing the Spanish language. I don't like how Spanish is structured. It's too complicated. There's too many. Too much conjugation. Like, why can't we just have a nice, easy sentence to express? Mendocino. I've never heard of Mendocino. I'm from Concord. Are you familiar with Concord? What would say Obama's wife then? I don't know. She's not in the picture. Because Obama ain't no simp. Listen, my name is Barack Obama, and I ain't no simp. My wife stays out of my political affairs. What I say in politics has nothing to do with her. It is not her affair, and and neither will I allow her to be involved or make any sort of social intervention on what I'm saying. What I'm saying is what I'm saying, and what I have said, and that's that. Once you know Spanish, all Latin languages will be easy. Yeah, that's what I hear. So let's go back to this article here. It's a crazy-ass article. How long is this? Oh, we're almost done here. We're almost done, okay? Because Mr. Biden stayed in the race in 2023 and half of 2024, Ms. Harris did not have the time or the political muscle tone to develop a compelling narrative about where she would lead the country. Even if she had, listen, it doesn't matter that she has 3 months. They could have given her 8 months. It would not have mattered. Because no matter what she says, she is made synonymous with her boss. Do you see what I'm saying? That's the thing. So we have high grocery prices. Oh my God! Listen, I go to the store and I want to buy myself a sandwich, and I end up paying $150. Like, what the hell, Biden? And then here comes Kamala, and she's like, "I'm gonna make things better." And then they say, "Well, wait a second. You were the vice president for all this time. Why did nothing happen? Are you saying your boss did a bad job? Are you distancing yourself from your boss?" And she says, "Well, no, I'm not. Joe's great. I love Joe. He's a good man. I love Joe. Oh, so you don't even have the integrity to criticize your boss? Then why in the hell should I trust you?" You see, it's not good. It ain't good. Do you think that if Trump loses, there will be another January 6th? That is a very good question. Yes, I do. I think something like January 6th will happen. If Trump loses, I think so, yes. If Trump loses, I ain't leaving the house. I'm going to stay in the house for at least 2 weeks. And if I do leave the house, I will leave with one of those Trump hats. We got to be careful out here. Some of these people are crazy. Now, I know that most Trump voters are decent, hardworking folks. But amongst those decent, hardworking folks are some crazy-ass people. And I want nothing to do with them. They're crazy. And the problem is, more and more people are becoming radicalized. It's scary. Like, for example, I'll give you guys a clue here. In my area, I saw a guy with a 3%er flag. Now, the 3%ers are a right-wing paramilitary movement, network, whatever they are. And I don't really like them. They kind of give me the creeps. And they're waiting for the moment when they're going to have to fight, physically, actually fight with guns for the Constitution. I mean, that's crazy shit. And if they think that Trump was robbed of the election, if Trump loses, I mean, these people could get violent. You never know. It's crazy. It really is nuts out here. So, yes, I think that if Trump loses, I think there will be some sort of political violence. I could be wrong, and I hope I am wrong, but I think that there will be some kind of political violence. I mean, we saw it on January 6th. We saw people attack police officers. We did. And this was after what? After we heard about how the left hates cops and how the left attacks police officers. And the left does do that, don't get me wrong. But then you saw right-wing people attacking, I mean, brutally attacking police officers, really hitting them. 3%ers are still around. Yes, they are. I'm surprised as a Russian you know about this stuff. But yeah, like really hitting cops. I mean, I saw it. I saw videos of it. And it's horrendous. It's not good. It's not good. But yes, I do. If Trump loses, I will anticipate some kind of political violence occurring. Inject division. What's that? How do you feel about the involvement of Elon in the government, possibly running in an executive department? It kind of reminds me of what happened with Peter Thiel. Peter Thiel funded Trump when he was running the first time, and then after Trump won, Peter Thiel got some position in the government, and then also I think Donald Trump's administration made some sort of a contract with his company to provide some sort of technology for border security. So I think Elon has some sort of financial interest in all this, like Thiel did. But I think with Thiel, it's not just about money. I think with Thiel, it's more about power. I mean, Thiel has all the money. Elon has all the money in the world. He's the richest man in the world. And so I think at this point, it's more about just influence and power. And that's why he bought X. I don't think it was financially advantageous for him to buy X. I think he really is a guy who wants to influence people, and he really wants to alter society. And you go onto Twitter, and it's just riddled with Jew hatred. I have never in my life seen so much modern day Jew hatred than I have now. It's insane. You see it all over the place. Holocaust denialism, hating on Jews, hating on other minorities. I mean, it's crazy. It really is crazy. We are truly, truly entering into a new world. Yeah, as soon as I hear Waffen division, I'm running the other way. Yeah, we are truly entering a new world, everybody. So let's look at this. Let's look more into this article. These two imperfect candidates are also operating in a political environment where voting is largely determined by gender and education. We're on track for the largest gender gap in voting in American history. This trend of women disproportionately voting for Democrats while men support Republicans first surfaced in the 1980 election. Based on the most recent NBC poll, there is currently a record 30-point gender gap, 7 points higher than in 2020. So more women are voting Democrat, which is not a surprise at all. That's pretty much always been the case with women voters. I mean, they vote Democrat because amazingly, we gave women the right to vote, and for some reason, their sole focus is just killing their unborn babies. The gap in voting based on education is even more pronounced in analysis by Bill Interf of the most recent NBC polling. There is a 43-point gap in voting between college graduates and those who did not graduate from college. Given this environment, the outcome of this election will likely be determined by which candidate is able to carry swing voters. Of course, there are two groups of swing voters to focus on in these final days. The first group is undecided voters, with a particular focus on independents, disaffected Republicans who do not like Mr. Trump, but are reluctant to support a Democrat, blah, blah, blah. Okay, give me the meat and potatoes here, lady. Come on. The Harris campaign is taking a similar approach, focusing on white college-educated women who currently favor Ms. Harris, blah, blah, blah. The outcome of this election will likely be determined by those two groups of voters in the swing states, so educated versus non-educated. For the first group, do they have enough confidence in Ms. Harris to be president, or will they opt for Mr. Trump, thinking that for better or worse, they know what they are getting, blah, blah, blah. These are the voters in states that will determine the next president. Wow. Okay, guys, there you go. That's probably the best article out right now on this election. I think that's probably the best. That's the best article that I've seen so far.